Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and coming up in today's newscast, will Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's rival Benny Gantz agree to a televised debate? We'll break down the top Israeli initiatives that are helping China in the fight against the coronavirus, and we'll reveal which famous Hollywood actress is set to portray a Holocaust survivor on Netflix. Well, national elections are less than 2 weeks away, and the question now is, are Israelis going to be treated to a televised debate between Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and blue and white head Benny Gantz? It looks like the answer to that may be a hard no. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is challenging his main rival Benny Gantz to a televised debate just ahead of the March 2nd elections. But the head of the Blue and White Party says he's not interested. Gunz is dismissing the challenge as a media spin and claiming that Netanyahu has been avoiding his calls for debates in the last round of elections. He says he won't work for a media spin or Netanyahu. Well, the Israeli Prime Minister is firing back, calling Gunz scared and questioning his ability to lead Israel if he can't stand up to the current Prime Minister. Israel hasn't had a debate between leading candidates since 1996, when Netanyahu squared off with then Prime Minister Shimon Peres. Netanyahu ultimately won that election. Televised election debates were a staple of Israeli elections between 1977 to 1996, but ultimately fell out of the favor of front-running candidates who felt they could end up being too risky. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu likely believes that having a debate right now could improve his standing in the polls, which have been continuing to forecast a political deadlock. Well, joining us now in the studio to discuss the state of politics in Israel right now as we head into national elections is Israeli attorney and legal advisor to the Israeli Movement for Governability and Democracy, Simcha Lord. Hello.
Hi.
So, polls are predicting yet another deadlock, as we all know. What will happen if we face another stalemate?
So the easy answer is a fourth election. That's sadly.
But can the government afford a fourth election?
We are saving a lot of money because we don't have a budget. So we are now basically on the one. It's very limited budget. So we suffer from that maybe, but we're saving money. So election is not so expensive as you would think. But that's the easiest answer. But of course, stalemate can lead to. Blue and white breaking, to the Likud breaking, to one of the small parties. Maybe Lieberman will. I still don't understand the reason he doesn't join the Likud from the first place. Maybe he will break. And anything can go.
But something has to change, and the question is whether or not that's going to be a forced change, or if the public is just going to say, we're not doing this again, we want to maybe change the way the electoral system works here.
So maybe there are some talks about maybe change the election system, maybe do an election only for a prime minister. Of course, Netanyahu will gain from it because they have more supporters than
the polls show that
Benny
he is more supported as a leader.
So that's why he won't get it, because the blue and white won't let him. So maybe a change in the system. Hardly the chances for that are very slim. The chances that we'll have a fourth election, but maybe we'll have new contenders in the next.
That might need to be what happens. Now, reports have just emerged that the state prosecutor's office may advise the attorney general to launch an investigation to the Fifth Dimension cybersecurity firm, which, for those of you who do not know, was headed by Blue and White #1 Benny Gantz last year. Now, what kind of impact will this have on his campaign?
I think that Blue and White campaign until now focused mainly on the fact that Netanyahu is corrupt. They spoke about it all the time, 3 indictments, he is corruption, bribery, whatever. If the public will say, oh, everyone is corrupt, which might be true, might be not, but if this will be the image because of this new investigation, then the Blue and White support will say, okay, so you don't offer any other policy different than Netanyahu. You said he is corrupt. You might be also corrupt, and why vote for you? So it can be a hard blow to Blue and White campaign.
The question is whether or not this is a political ploy or it's a reality, that there's some truth in this investigation.
The Fifth Dimension is very shady. Definitely something wrong went there. We know that something wrong went there because the state controller said so. But there wasn't still, until now, investigation on what happens with the part that Benny Gantz took in it. It was only investigated from the side of the police.
Right.
Now we're talking about investigation to Benny Gantz. We have to remind ourselves that it came because of an appeal by an organization named Lavi. They pressured the Attorney General to say, what about Gantz? Why are you investigating the police and not investigating the second part of the deal? And it's a big success for them, one must say. But let's see how it rolls. But the question is, why wait until after the elections? They didn't wait so much for Netanyahu's cases to unfold. So it's a very strange situation.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to see if there is, validity in these investigations, right? All right. Well, thank you for joining us. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but we will be talking about the elections quite a lot in the coming week.
And maybe about the next election.
Yes. Oh, I hope not. All right. Israel is continuing to help its nationals leave China amid the deadly coronavirus epidemic. One Israeli man who has been stuck in the quarantined Hubei province has now been given special permission to leave for home, and authorities are also working on releasing a second Israeli who is stuck in a separate area near Wuhan. In the meantime, Israeli companies are offering their assistance to China, and ILTV's Natasha Manson has this.
All right, Natasha, so I have the top 5 Israeli-based initiatives that are working to help China deal with the coronavirus crisis. Up first, Israel's Bar-Ilan University said that they've developed technology that could significantly reduce the diagnostic time of the coronavirus. Supposedly, the test can rapidly test 100 samples of patients potentially infected with the virus and reduce diagnostic time to only 15 minutes.
Wow.
Next up, the Israeli aid organization Israel Aid sent shipments of medical supplies and protective gear to China on the very last flight out of Tel Aviv in an effort to help tackle the severe shortage of supplies. The packages went directly to the Chinese Ministry of Health for its use.
Wow.
Third on the list, Israeli startup Sonovia Limited. They say that they can help stop the spread of the coronavirus through novel tech for an antipathogen, antibacterial fabric, and textile. The company sent samples to 2 medical labs in China and are awaiting results. Fourth up is Israeli scientist Dr. Gili Regev, the co-founder of Sanitize, a company that's developed a patented platform tech that allows for the topical delivery of nitric oxide to destroy bacteria, fungus, and viruses. Dr. Regev says one platform is currently working on a nasal spray that could potentially kill viruses, including the flu, and may also work against the coronavirus. And last on our list, but definitely not least, fifth up is #StandWithWuhan initiative, which is led by Holo Zhang, a representative of the Chinese students and business community here in Israel. Her initiative has helped coordinate and send several shipments to China filled with over 30,000 masks, close to 8,000 suits, and 380 goggles from Israel. So just this week, another 10,000 masks were actually sent from Israel in a joint effort with the tech-focused Israeli aid organization Smart Aid.
Wow. Well, all we can do is hope that Israel's efforts, along with the efforts and raised awareness from the rest of the world, can put an end to this horrific nightmare. Thank you for the update, Natasha.
My pleasure.
All right, now in case you haven't been paying enough attention, the situation in the Middle East is constantly shifting, especially with Iran in the mix. So to keep ahead of these ever-evolving threats, the IDF has a new plan. In case you haven't been paying enough attention, the situation in the Middle East is constantly shifting, especially with Iran in the mix. So to keep ahead of these ever-evolving threats, the IDF is now unveiling new significant changes to its general staff. Among the new changes is the creation of a new Iran-focused directorate, as well as a restructuring of existing departments. And this all comes as part of the IDF's military multi-year momentum plan, which has already been approved and is set to go into effect in summer. As for the details of the plan, many questions still remain. But what we do know already is that the general staff will remain the same in size, consisting of 24 brigadier and major generals. But a new position in charge of the newly formed Iran Directorate will be included, and a committee will soon form to choose its chief. Major General Itai Virob, meanwhile, will serve dually as the head of both the IDF Depths Corps and the military colleges, making room in the general staff for the new addition. Finally, the new Iran Strategy Directorate will be responsible for focusing solely on countering Iranian threats and not that of Iran's proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and others. All right, now a new survey has just revealed that Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders is soaring above his rivals for the U.S. Democratic Party's presidential nomination with 32% support. Now this comes as he's under fire here in Israel for accusing the Israeli government of being, quote, racist. Now joining us is columnist for Newsweek and editor of HistoryCentral.com, Mark Schulman. Okay, so what what is Bernie Sanders saying about Israel? Tell us what he said in this speech.
Okay, in this speech, he talked about the fact that you can support Israel while not supporting the racist government of Netanyahu. Now, we have to unpack this in a couple of different ways.
Right.
First of all, we have to start with the fact that Bernie is suddenly talking about the fact that he's Jewish. Until now, he sort of avoided that question altogether. He was asked a question last week at a town hall where he talked about the impact of the Holocaust on his family. And he looked like off the cuff, but a very deep response to that question and how his Jewishness, that aspect of it, impacted him tremendously. Didn't explain, how he feels about Israel, that the need for the Holocaust brought him to think there was a reason for the state of Israel. And then he came out with an ad, or I should say a video, where he has different people talking about the fact that he supports, that he's Jewish, and it'd be great to be the first Jewish president, and all that means. So those are two things. Now, the problem with this statement is you have to unpack it a little bit further. From my perspective, it's perfectly fine to criticize the Israeli government. It doesn't make you anti-Israel. It doesn't make you anti-Zionist if you criticize the Israeli government. It's perfectly fine to say there are some racists in Israel, though racism, I think, is a loaded term because our conflict with the Palestinians, or however you want to define them, is not a racist conflict. It's a national ethnic conflict, and we have real conflict. I mean, it's not like, no one ever did anything to us. We've been having fights with them now since the 1920s.
Right.
They've been killing us, we've been killing them, and it's not a racism issue, it's something else altogether. But to call the government of Israel racist, that crosses a certain line.
Yeah.
To criticize their policies, 100%. To even say that certain members of the government, and I won't mention his name, but one or two of them clearly may be, if you want to define being anti-Arab, etc., as racist, then they may fit into that. But to make that statement, that sort of throws everything into a different place altogether.
What is your opinion on the kind of marketing of his identity with this new, commercial, this campaign?
Well,
commercial
look, he's
that came
trying
out?
desperately to increase his base. In other words, he has the Bernie supporters. The Bernie supporters are very committed to him, as we've seen. There's a base of maybe 20% of the Democratic Party that's totally Bernie people, so to speak, and nothing will move them. Elizabeth Warren somehow managed to lose out to these people. I mean, my view is he should have stepped aside after he's had a heart attack and given his support to Warren, but he didn't, and those people are really committed. But his problem is he can't really get too far beyond that. So one of the things he's trying to do is trying to reach out to Jewish Democrats and say, hey, I'm one of you. And in order for him to grow from, the 30% to 40 or 50%, which he needs to win the nomination, he needs support amongst the Jewish Democrats, and they've been very, very reluctant to support him.
Well, also I think that his stance on American-Israeli relations is something that a lot of the Jewish community in the United States has been questioning because he claims that he's pro-Israel, yet making a statement basically calling the entire Israeli government racist is something pretty offensive.
It's a pretty offensive to say the least.
Thing to say.
Yeah, and also, I mean, if you look at his overall foreign policy views, leaving aside the specificity of Israel, it's basically very similar to Trump's in the sense that he believes in America first, so to speak, or an isolationist America, not involved in world affairs as much. And it's very important for Israel, for the United States to be involved in world affairs, because if the United States pulls its forces back from the Middle East and from Europe, that's very bad for Israel.
You're right.
So it's not anti-Israel, directly, but it's a very definite negative impact on Israel if it happens.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you for joining us with this update. I'm sure that there will be more coming out about Bernie's stance on Israel. All right, moving on to something a little lighter. If you enjoy a good glass of wine like me, then this next story is for you. This month, we had the pleasure of checking out one of Israel's biggest wine festivals, but there's one unique thing that all of the wine has in common. Check this out. When you think about wine, France, Spain, and Italy typically come to mind, but it's actually Israel that's one of the oldest wine regions on the planet. Locals have been producing wine here for the last 5,000 years. And that's why this year, 40 different wineries from around the world are here in Tel Aviv to take part in Israel's own version of the World Taste Festival. Here's the catch. Every single bottle is kosher. So, what makes a wine kosher? Sabbath-observant Jews must supervise and handle the entire winemaking process, all the way from the time the grapes are crushed until the wine is bottled up. And all ingredients used must be kosher.
Kosher wine overall used to be sweet wines. In the last 20 years, We've revolutionized and changed the whole image that you can have very nice dry wines from all over the world. Israel, California, France, Italy, Spain. And the retail prices kept on going up as the demand for quality went up. 15 years ago, the most expensive wine was $20, $22. Today, you have wines anywhere from $20, $40, $60, $80, $150 a bottle from Napa Valley or from the Golan Heights or from Bordeaux, because people are looking constantly, give me something better and better and better. And it's unstoppable. There's zero difference in taste and quality between kosher and non-kosher wine at all. And the proof is, look at all the people here. Most of them don't keep kosher, they're enjoying the wines. Israeli wines have nothing to be ashamed of. They can compete with top Bordeaux wines, top Spanish wines, top Italian wines.
And many of the Israeli wineries at today's events have really special stories to tell.
The Gunz winery story is like the story of the Jewish nation. When Yaakov and Alma, the founders and CEO of this winery, started building the winery, they looked for a room to age the wine in barrels. They had an ancient cave in the backyard. They emptied it out. One of the amazing things they found is this coin. And this coin is related to the Great Revolt time, 2,000 years ago, with the image of amphora, an ancient dish when they used to age wine, with the engraving for the freedom of Zion. And when they found this, they realized it's a calling to continue this great legacy of Jews making and producing premium wine from this area thousands of years ago. So l'chaim, and drink Israeli wine.
All right, how far would you be willing to go to pursue your passion? Well, Francisco Dutari is a professional soccer player from Argentina who's played for some of Latin America's biggest teams, from the Argentine team Godoy Cruz to the Pumas in Mexico City to Everton in Chile. And now he's here in Israel playing for the Israeli team Nesiona. Francisco, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
So you moved all the way from Argentina with your entire family, with your 2 children. Why Israel?
Yes, we decided to come here, all the family, like you said, basically because of my job of football. We have a big opportunity to come here to Sexia Nesiona. And we decided to come because it's a new possibility, a new kind of life, a different kind of life, a new experience. So
yeah, it's also about the experience of being in a new place, I imagine.
Yes,
but what is it like to play soccer in Israel compared to Argentina? Is it different?
Yes, basically it's the same, but you have some differences. Maybe the level about the biggest clubs in Argentina, Boca, River, those kind of a little bit higher. Yes, but it's like the average of the first division in Argentina. It's like the Premier League here in Israel, so it's not too much difference.
Oh, that's a big compliment for Israeli football.
Yes, everyone can imagine that maybe Israel has a low level than Argentina, but it's almost the same. It's not too much different, so it's a very good level.
Okay, this is going to be the headline of our story today. So what is your favorite part about living in Israel? I know that's a hard question.
Maybe I like the food. The food is a very good part, although I miss too much barbecue, because the Argentina barbecue is not the same, but here I enjoy too much the food.
Yeah, and the beach, of course.
Of course, the beach, yes. The first time when I was here 6 months ago when I came, I was living here in Tel Aviv, and I enjoy the summer here. It was wonderful, the beach.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to play in the heat though, right?
Yes.
It gets really hot.
Yeah, it was really hot. The first months I stayed here was like 35 degrees every day.
How
was
do you
really
play
hot.
in that?
Yeah, and also I was coming from the winter in Argentina, so the change was very difficult, but you know, you have to get used to it.
Yeah, you have to get used to it now, that's it. So do you think you're going to stay here for a long time, or?
I wish that, yes, I hope. That's the main idea with all the family, to stay many years here.
Amazing. All right, well, Francisco, congratulations so much. We hope that you do very well in your time here playing in Israel, and we hope that you stay for a long time as
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for
joining
us. All right, now this is amazing. When I was a kid, I was absolutely fascinated by birds, but let's face it, bird watching can be pretty long and exhausting if you're not ready for it. Well, now you can get an up-close look at Israel's biggest birds of prey in the wild, and it's all thanks to the Raptor Nest Cam project. Now, the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel has set up nest cams across Israel that give us a real-time window into the lives of 4 of Israel's most impressive birds. The long-legged buzzard, the Eurasian eagle owl, the short-toed snake eagle, and the griffin vulture. Now, as we speak, 2 cameras are currently broadcasting. One is following a buzzard's nest and the other is following a pair of griffin vultures. Buzzards are mainly found in northern Israel and they're very sensitive to the slightest interference, which is why it's amazing that these cameras don't bother them. And griffin vultures are typically found in the Negev Desert and the Golan Heights and have a wingspan that can reach more than 8 feet. They're nature's cleaners. They consume dead animals, which helps prevent the spread of disease. And the video footage of them is absolutely amazing. Well, now a crowdfunding campaign has just been launched to extend the Raptor Nest Cam project even further. In other words, more birds coming to you soon. It's amazing. All right, now we have another entertainment update of the week. A new Netflix film is on its way, and the iconic actress Sophia Loren is set to star in it. And an Orthodox NBA analyst turned Jewish day school basketball coach is making headlines. ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is, of course, here in the studio with the details.
Hey, Natasha. So Sophia Loren is considered to be one of the last surviving stars from the golden age of Hollywood, and now the Italian film actress is gracing our screens once again. This time it's to portray a Holocaust survivor. The film The Life Ahead, which Netflix acquired the rights to, is actually directed by Loren's son, Eduardo Ponti.
Wow, this is honestly such exciting news. She's an 85-year-old movie icon, and it's going to be so amazing to see her in this film. Now, it's crazy to think that she was on screens during the golden age, and she's returning to the streaming age.
Yeah, even the actress is excited to work with Netflix. In an interview with Deadline, she said, quote, "In my career, I've worked with the biggest studios, but I can safely say that none have the reach and culture diversity of Netflix."
Interesting. So what is the film about, and when is it set to be released?
So the movie is a contemporary adaptation of the 1975 novel The Life Before Us, where Lauren's character takes in a 12-year-old boy who recently robbed her, and is set to release later this year, so we have a lot to get excited about.
Well, I'm definitely going to keep my eyes open for this one. So what is up next?
All right, so next up, Ben Falk was analyzing pro basketball players for the Philadelphia 76ers just 4 years ago, and his life definitely took a turn. This week, he's celebrating a championship as the coach of the Barak Hebrew Academy in Philadelphia.
Okay, wait, so how did he go from working for the NBA to coaching a Jewish school basketball team?
Right, so Falk is actually an Orthodox Jew who has always had a passion for basketball. He worked for the 76ers as an analyst, but had always wanted to be a coach, but wasn't qualified for the NBA level to do so. So coaching at a Jewish high school was the more appealing choice for him. So he ended up bringing his NBA analytic mentality to the Barak Hebrew Academy, and ultimately helped them win their very first championship this year.
Wow, what an amazing story. So congratulations to them, obviously, on their big win. And I hope that they continue with this winning streak. Emmanuel, thank you for the update. It's good to know that I could change careers in that kind of way.
Definitely.
All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend has finally arrived, and with it, so has the rain. Today is nice and sunny with a high of 18 degrees Celsius or 65 Fahrenheit. But Friday should see heavy rain in the afternoon, although the temperature should rise to about 20 degrees Celsius or 68 Fahrenheit. Saturday should also be rainy with a high of 17 or 62 Fahrenheit. So keep an umbrella or a hood on at all times. All right, now before we go, let's take a look at what is going viral in Israel. I just love everything about this. Where is this cat? I need to hug it. Okay, just cat videos every day. That's all we need here at ILTV. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.43 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.